Thank you for participating to this event, How Might We Work? We will be starting soon. Before beginning, let me give a quick background and house rules about this event. This event is brought to you by Unext. Please check us out at unext.co.jp. If you have any questions or comment about today, please tweet it with #HMWW. #HMWW. You can take screenshots and post them on social media, but we kindly ask you not to record. This event will take about 1 hour and a half, so feel free to grab some drinks and snacks and enjoy. Welcome to How Might We Work? My name is Hiroko. I'm a product design manager in Unext. I'm going to be an MC of this event today. Let me explain the concept of this event, How Might We Work? We set one simple rule: do not speak in Japanese. Nowadays, globalism has been flourishing, so we have increasingly more opportunities to communicate in English. We might think that speaking exclusively in English is so difficult, but actually we can do it with very simple and basic vocabulary. We believe that the important is to use English every day in order to become used to it and become more natural and more confident to talk in English. So in this event, each time we bring topics related to design, technology, organization, and the way of working, which of course we will discuss all in English. I hope you will enjoy today, gain motivation to use English more, and pick up some useful information for your next career challenge. Today, How Might We Work episode 2, we are going to discuss how we can make an international career in Japan-based company. What does it look like to work with people of diverse nationalities and cultures? What is the fun part and what is the challenge? Today we invited 4 guests who work for Japanese companies that have many staff members from overseas countries. They are specialized in HR, organizational development, and recruitment. So they know a lot about pros and cons of having an international team in a company. Let's start from quick introduction. The first guest today is Tutti Quintela. She's a manager of HR group at Mercury. Thank you for coming, Tutti. How are you today?
Hi, thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm good.
So can you introduce yourself quickly?
Yes, of course. So hi everyone, I'm Tucci, group manager at Mercury. I manage learning and development, diversity and inclusion, and global operations at Mercury. And I'm originally from Brazil and have been in Japan for 3.5 years, working mainly in English. I don't speak any Japanese.
Right. It's doable, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Next guest is Hiroko Imaeda. She's a manager of talent and organizational development at Smart News. Thank you for coming, Hiroko. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And we are both Hirokos, I guess.
Yeah, actually, yes. It's a very common name.
Thank you. I'm doing good. Great. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. Can you introduce yourself?
Oh, yes, sure. So yes, as the other Hiroko-san mentioned, I'm at Smart News. I lead the talent and organizational development team. I'm originally from Tokyo, but I spent about 9 years living in the US as a child. I use both English and Japanese in my job right now. I joined Smart News about a year ago, so it's been a very exciting year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next is Yoritake Handa. He's the head of recruiting at X Wizard. Thank you for coming, Yori.
Hi, and very sorry for the very difficult to pronounce the company name and my name. Actually, I'm Yori Taka, but please call me just Yori for short. And
sure.
Hi, everyone. I'm Yori Taka from X Services. I'm really excited to join this kind of challenging like casual meetup, and I'm really a bit nervous because actually I don't use in English in my like usual conversations a little bit, so I'm really nervous, but I like to enjoy it. Thank you.
Sure, your English is perfectly fine, by the way. Thank you for coming. Please relax and enjoy. Okay, finally, Takatoshi Kakimoto. He's a talent acquisition manager at Unext. How are you, Taka?
Hi. Thank you for the introduction. I'm good.
Right.
Yes.
So can you introduce yourself?
Yes. I'm Kakimoto, and I've been working for Unext for like 6.5 years, and I've been in charge of hiring for about 4.5 years. And back then, there are a little foreign employees in Unext, but recently we have many international employees here. So every day I enjoy talking something in English, but the presenting something in English is kind of rare. Actually, for me, it's the first time, so I'm a bit nervous, but I'll try to enjoy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you all for coming today. Okay, let's explain about the schedule for today. For the first hour, we are going to have presentation from each of you about your career or about your company, about how it looks like to have an international team in your company, or anything related to the topics today. And after that, we're gonna have about 30 minutes of panel discussion time. We've gathered some information, questions from today's audience, so that we're gonna have discussion about these topics freely. Is it clear? Okay, let's get started. So the presentation time, I would like to start from Tuti.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Oh yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So, hi everyone. I'm Tucci, and today I will talk about an international career and work environment here in Japan from my experience, of course. So first, just recap of my introduction. I am Tucci from Brazil, but I worked in London, UK for about 2 years, and then after that moved to Japan. I'm in Tokyo for 3.5 years now. I'm originally a major in computer engineering, and I have a background in software engineer for about 8 years. I'm also a volunteer director of Women Who Code, which is a nonprofit organization, on my free time. And when I joined Mercury, I first joined as the engineering office team, part of the engineering office team. And now I'm currently the group manager for diversity and inclusion, learning and development, and global operations on the HR side. So first, I would like to talk a little bit about my career journey to give a perspective about my international experience. When I first graduated from college in Brazil, I did 2 years of internships with web development right after college. And even before I graduated, I did 2 years of internships. Then I started working as a Ruby on Rails developer for a startup in my hometown, which was an interesting experience as well, to learn how to develop really fast in the startup environment. After that, I was a mobile engineer at Samsung Brazil. So I was developing Android apps. And that was the first time that I traveled abroad for work. I visited South Korea, Suwon, where Samsung has the digital city. And that was a really important experience in my life because it's when I decided that I wanted to work abroad. So after I applied for so many jobs, and I was rejected from many, so that's normal. I finally got my full stack web developer job at Quipper in London, UK. If you have not heard of Quipper, it's actually a startup, and they were acquired by the Japanese corporation Recruit Holdings. So even if I was working in London and in the UK, it was acquired by the Japanese group. So my boss was Japanese. And at that time, after 2 years working for Quipper in London, I talked to my boss, and the opportunity to transfer to Tokyo came up. So that's when I moved to Tokyo. And I was still working for Quipper as a full stack web developer. During that time, I was working in the Tokyo office a little bit and a little bit in the Manila office in the Philippines, mainly using English. And the Manila office, it was completely English speaking, so I could work with them very well. And I also became an engineering manager as I started enjoying more the people management side. So I became the engineering manager. These are some of the photos of my experience in Quipper Tokyo and Quipper Manila in the Philippines. We used to visit our customers, our schools that used our system. And I also participated in some events for Women Who Code Manila. Then, as I joined Women Who Code Tokyo, the nonprofit organization, I started organizing some events for women in technology. And I also met many people. And I became the director of the Tokyo chapter of Women Who Code, which is a volunteer position. And as I made so many connections and network, especially with international members, I also met many people from Mercury. And that's when I switched jobs to join Mercury. And I joined the engineering office team. Then in my time within Mercury, I led some projects at the engineering office team. Actually, I published an article on the engineering blog about shaping Mercury engineering culture, where we created the engineering career ladder and some trainings for engineers. So there's some stuff online that you can check. But as I got more involved in program management, like trainings and career development, I got more and more interested in the people development side. So I moved to HR and I became the manager of people programs team. At that time, leading diversity and inclusion and people and leadership development. And now, recently, I'm now a group manager. I have 4 teams that I manage, including learning and development, diversity and inclusion, and global operations. So that's brief of my career. Now I want to talk about the international work environment in Japan, giving some context and some of the challenges that we also go through. Of course, there are many. So to give a picture about Mercury, this is the head count in the 4 years from 2016 to 2019. It grew really, really fast. So there was a lot of new members joining and a lot of international members. I like to say that Mercury took diversity to the next level and hire people from over 40 different countries from almost all regions of the world. So it's a very, very diverse workforce in that sense. Of course, it's about most of this diversity is on the engineering department, is where we hired mostly from abroad, but many of them don't speak fluent Japanese. So of course, we have like a lot of language challenges because of that. Many people don't speak very good English, many people don't speak very good Japanese. So we have this gap. And other divisions, especially corporate side or business development, is still mainly Japanese, and people do not speak very good English. Some people do, of course. Directors and above mainly speaking Japanese, but a good number of them are bilingual as well. But beyond language, diversity has other challenges as well. There's the cultural challenge. There's, of course, many nuances and expectations that are different from culture to culture, even from individual to individual, of course. So one example is the mismatched definition of some subjective qualities. For example, what is considered to be polite, what is considered to be rude, what is considered to be confusing, what is considered to be obvious. This can be very different depending on your context, where you grew up or how you learned in your life. And of course, some different expectations for roles and responsibilities as well. Then there's also inclusion and belonging challenges. And that shows up in very different places, like workspace infrastructure, if it's accessible for all types of employees, access to information, is your information published in Japanese and English inside the company as well, safe space to address issues, do people have a space where they can talk about some kind of challenge that they're having in their career or in their team, and of course belonging, making social connections and friendships can be a challenge too. So now, how do we deal with all those challenges? And of course, this is how Mercury has been trying to address these challenges so far. I believe there are many different ways to handle. The first part is that we have a strong system to support communication. As I mentioned, there is a big language challenge. So we do have a team of global operations that are in-house translators and interpreters, and they help translating documents and interpreting meetings when we have people that don't understand the same language in the meeting. They're very, very helpful and very talented as well. We have a language education team, which is in-house English and Japanese curriculums. We help our Japanese members to level up their English, and we help our English members to level up their Japanese, so we can create this culture of meeting in the middle. And we have a dedicated diversity and inclusion team. It used to be a lead, now we have a team, which is we have in-house diversity and communication trainings to raise awareness about diversity issues and about communication styles as well. Another thing, this is from our language education team, we have courses and trainings in Yasashi Eigo and Yasashi Nihongo, which is simplifying the English and Japanese communication to help bridge the understanding as well. There's actually an article published about that. Other things that we do to support communication, and this was very creative, is we created an AI bot for our internal communications, and it's called Hisashi. And Hisashi helps us to translate messages with machine learning translation. It is very, very helpful. You can translate documents and the Slack messages. On the way to bridge cultural nuances and expectations, like I mentioned, we do continuously try to strengthen our culture and create some processes and guidelines to help bridge understanding or different understanding of the same things. And we have diversity and inclusion trainings like unconscious bias training, cross-cultural communication workshop, and lunch and learns, where people can teach each other about culture and different communication styles. Then, to foster teamwork, we need to build trust and dependability between people that come from different languages and different cultures. So we have team building activities and even intentional exercises to help you build trust. For example, align expectations with each other or give proper feedback. And of course, this is not easy. So there's a lot of hard work from managers and from team members to practice empathy and understanding each other. And we also have what we call the DDI Communities, which are employee resource groups. Those are groups volunteer-led by employees inside the company to gather a community around an identity or interest, currently we have 3 communities. One is the multicultural community at Mercury for people from different cultural backgrounds and cultural understanding. Women at Mercury to help build this community of women in the workplace, and the Pride at Mercury for members that are identify or ally of LGBTQ identity. Another thing that I really like is how do we foster inclusion and belonging through social connections. So we want people to make friends inside the company, and we want people to have groups that they can call their social groups. So we encourage something that we call clubs or bukatsu, which are the Z channels on our Slack. And anyone can create a Z channel, and anyone can join a group of people around the same interest. And that happens a lot. And the incentive is that Mercury offers a budget for each club that has a minimum number of members to enjoy and socialize together. So that's the current environment. And now just to finalize, I'll go quickly about what I learned building an international career so far and some career advice. The first one, key learning from my journey, is proactivity. So if you don't ask, you don't get. If you don't look for it, you won't find. And if you don't try, you won't have any results. This is my main lesson from my entire career. All the opportunities that I had to go after it by myself. And I have to ask the questions or find the people and go after myself. And then sometimes, of course, you fail, but sometimes you succeed, but you have to try. The second point is that being a fast learner and developing critical thinking. So this helps very much in any kind of job or any kind of skill that you want to develop. First, you absorb much information, and then second, you start questioning why things work the way they do, so you can make your own opinions. The third one is to stay humble. There's always more to learn, and you don't want to come off as like arrogant or miss on learning something new because you think you already know better. Then fourth is the making meaningful and honest connections. And I really think this is important, is empathy. When you show empathy, you create true connections and true relationships. And this can open many doors for you in the future or at the current moment. Next is expose yourself to opportunities, which is basically don't be afraid. It's similar to the first point, proactivity. So if you see an opportunity in front of you, you just grab and you go for it. The next one is about self-confidence and trusting your future self. Many times I was afraid and I thought that I was not ready to take the next step or to take a risk. But you have to trust your future self. You have to trust that you will figure it out. So you put yourself in the opportunity, or you apply to a job, or you apply to a position, and you take the risk. And if you're really afraid, ask, what is the worst that could happen? Maybe it's not that bad, so you should just try. And the last one is be creative and optimistic. When you look at situations with a creative eye and optimism, you can uncover hidden opportunities. You just have to look for it. That's my presentation for today. If you have any questions, please let me know and reach out to me on any social media. Thank you.
Thank you, Tuti. It was a great presentation. You guys have any question to Tuti?
No, at the moment.
Right. I was very interested about bukatsu ideas, so you can create any bukatsu on the Slack channel, and this is actually like supported by your company financially, or it's just you do it?
No, it's supported. It's supported, yes.
Okay,
so,
that's cool. Yeah.
Especially before the work from home, it was more active, but we get ichimon per month to spend with the bukatsu.
Okay.
So if you have a Harry Potter bukatsu, we have so we gather to watch the movie, and then we can use the money to like buy pizza or something.
All right, that's quite nice. Yeah, it's kind of like easy to start. I thought that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
It's very nice.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tutti.
Thank you.
So the next presentation is Hiroko.
Can you see it now?
Yes, I can see it.
Great. All right. So all right then. Hi everyone. This is Hiroko from Smart News. I'm here to talk about working in Japan and building an international career. So to the next page. All right. So just a little bit about myself. As mentioned earlier, I am at Smart News right now. I lead the talent and organizational development team. I actually joined Smart News just about a year ago, and it's been a very interesting year. So that my team was founded when I joined Smart News. So this past year has been sort of building the team, and we have been focusing on people development or the leadership development, or it could be about organizational development, creating new policies or trying to come up with programs that would motivate our people. So those are the things that myself and my team focus on right now. Just to go back a little bit in my career, I started my career in finance, and I have always wanted to build my career in HR, but unfortunately I wasn't lucky enough to find a job in HR as a new graduate. I don't know why, but back then I heard that companies were hiring only graduate students into HR and not really undergraduates. But at the same time, I knew that I wanted to work in finance. So I took the advice that I got back then from the people who were already working in finance, that if I wanted to go into HR at some point, it would be a great path to start my career on the business side and understand the business. And that would help me as an HR professional at some point, and I should have some chance to make the move anyway. So I actually followed that advice and started my career as an equities specialist. I really got into that and I found it very interesting. But after having done 7 years, including corporate sales or things like that, I spent my longest years at Goldman Sachs, and I still wanted to I couldn't get rid of this passion in HR. I tried to make the career shift, and I was finally lucky enough to find this company that was looking for somebody that wanted to do talent development in HR, but not with the HR experience, but sales experience, because this talent development job was for salespeople in the equities business. So that was perfect for me, and so I took the job, and that's how I started my career. Now, I've been working in the financial industry mainly at American banks, right? And the reason is because I was born and raised in Tokyo, but I moved to New York because of my father's business when I was a kid. I didn't have a choice. I really liked living in Japan, and so I didn't really need to move to the US. But that was my father's job, and so I went with my family. The first years were very, very difficult for me. I knew no, English. I couldn't even say my name in English, and that was very, very tough. But then, as I spent more days there, and I learned English, very slowly, but little by little. I guess I found the joy of, guess like, finding more about this new country. And then I ended up spending 9 years there. So I went to middle school, high school, and college there. And so, I guess by that time, I became pretty bicultural, I guess, half Japanese and I guess half American in a way. But at that time, I was starting to sort of forget about what it was like in Japan. And I felt that my strength was that, I'm from Japan and, I speak Japanese. And so even though by that time I could speak English, I felt that, using both languages, sort of putting this knowledge or, my experience in two countries into use would be my strength. So that's why I decided to come back to Japan, but work for an American company. So that's how I built my career. Anyway, so that's about me. I want to talk a little bit about Smart News, where I work now. So we have 6 offices in 3 countries, and we are multicultural. So our leadership team represents 5 countries or regions, right? And our people represent 18 countries or regions, which I think is pretty great. When I first learned this, I was very excited because I thought Smart News was a Japanese company, focusing on Japanese business. But then I learned that it's actually very international. And the application that we provide is offered in more than 150 countries. Now, because so the largest office we have is Tokyo, but our offices overseas are growing very rapidly. And if I could show you the Slack that we use, you would see Japanese and English just flying around, or it could be even like Chinese or other languages like French, right? So in my job, I use maybe 60% of my job in Japanese, and then I do 40% of my job in English. And that ratio would be different depending on the job you do, or depending on I guess the division that you sit in. The division I sit in, which is People's Operations Division, is I guess it's one of more international divisions in terms of the languages spoken or the cultures where the people are from. Just because we need to think about the global human resource, I guess people related policies. And on the other hand, maybe some divisions, for example, salespeople, right? They actually face the Japanese clients, the local advertising companies and more traditional companies. And so I guess salespeople may use less of English, or our engineers actually. I think all of our engineers actually use English on a day-to-day basis. And so it really depends on which job you do or which division you sit in. So that's our culture. But I was actually pretty surprised how international Smart News is. So these are some pictures of our offices. Since I joined Smart News, only a little bit before the COVID-19 breakout happened, I haven't had the chance to visit other offices, but I feel pretty close to them because I have maybe like 3 or 4 meetings with the people from the U.S. offices or China offices. My boss's boss is is actually not in Japan but in other offices, and so I guess even though I'm based in Japan, I don't feel sometimes I even forget that I'm working in Japan or in a Japanese office, right? Because you're so connected with the people outside of your office or your company. Now I want to share a little bit about what it's like to be working at Smart News. So I mentioned it's pretty international. What I like about Smart News is that it's got a really, really good balance between, I guess, a global company and a Japanese company. right? So I come from the financial industry, and my entire career before Smart News was at American or US based companies. Like very global companies with more than 10,000 or 20,000 people globally. And it was a very exciting environment, and I really, really loved it. And that's why I spent, all these years and at those companies. But then I've always wondered what it would be like to, work in an office where it all started, right? So even though Smart News is a very global company now and international, it is still the Tokyo office is still the largest office, and there are many people based in Tokyo. So in terms of time difference or maybe other reasons, it is actually easy to talk to with the people based in the same region, right? So even though Smart News is an international company, I still get to see many of the decisions made in Japan, or I get to work in an office where it all started, right? And we do have leadership members sitting in other countries, and so we are very global. But then at the same time, I feel very, very close to our management team in Tokyo. So that's something different. That's something that I see very differently from my experience working in my previous companies where I had spent all these years. At the same time, I mentioned about the good balance between the global company and the Japanese company, right? So at the same time, I actually see the advantage of being in the office where it all started, because I guess being in Japan, you get to see the product growing very fast, and that was something that that's a little different from where I come from. In finance, I guess that the securities business or the finance business is so global, and I always felt like I guess being in Japan, you're kind of following the headquarters because the market is so much bigger there, right? But being at Smart News, I feel like even though the businesses are growing fast overseas as well, I feel like it is happening here too, and I get to see it very closely. And so that's the local touch that I also get to enjoy here. Now, finally, I guess building an international career. When I think about this, I guess I thought of two things, right? Building an international career and how to do that. That depends on two things. One is, how do you define an international career, right? And why do you want an international career? So first, how do you define an international career? It could be that you're working at a global company in Japan, or it could be that you're working at a Japanese company overseas, or it could be that you are working at a Japanese company in Japan, but with international colleagues or clients. So it could mean many things. So that's it really depends how to build that career. And the second thing was, why do you want an international career? To me, having an international career is just a means, right? It's not a purpose. It's kind of like, how to be rich, right? Do you want to be rich just so that you can say you are rich? I don't know. Maybe there are some people like that, but I think it's more, you want to be rich because you want to live in a big house or something, right? Being rich is more like a means to achieve your goal. And I think building an international career is something similar. It's not a purpose, it's a means. So, there's a question, why do you want to have an international career? So how to build an international career would depend on those two things. How do you define it? What does it mean to you to have an international career? What kind of career is that? And two, why do you want it? And I think depending on those two things, I guess building that could could vary a lot. And so I don't think there's one unique answer, but I can think of one thing that would be common to any kind of international careers, is having your own expertise. Because for me, I think, and this is from my experience, having an international career is really about being needed in an international environment. And how do you get, I guess, like, how are you needed in an international environment? Well, I think that's having something that you can provide as an expert or as a professional. So I think having an international career requires, I don't know, speaking English or knowing the cultures. But before that, I think you need to have something special, some speciality that you can provide. And I'm saying this from my own experience for two reasons. One is because even though I spent 9 years in the US and learned English as a kid, and so I feel lucky that I had that opportunity. But to be honest, I still, feel that I have disadvantage of not being a native English speaker. I don't see myself as native. There are many, many times that I don't understand what people are saying, or I don't know how to say something. I have friends who are truly bilingual and they have no issues. And, even though people from Japan often see me as native, I don't feel native, right? So I actually feel like I do have disadvantage, even though I don't want to see it as an advantage. And, having that and still trying to build an international career, I felt that having my own expertise really, really helped. Because if I have that, language may be like a bottleneck, but people will listen to you if you have something to offer, right? Language comes next. That's how I feel. So having an expertise, I think, is really important. And if you have that, and if you want to have an international career, I think that could come after that. And you could always go into an international environment anytime in your career. So that's one reason why I feel that way. The other reason why I feel, it's about having expertise is not, it's a little different from sort of having an international career, but more from my own experience, having started my career in the equities side and then going into HR. So when I made that career shift, I knew nothing about HR, and I was surrounded by all these HR professionals, and I felt so nervous and, oh my God, I'm not a new graduate anymore, and I'm lacking all this HR knowledge and all that experience. But one thing that saved me was that I knew the equities business, right? So I was an HR professional working in the equities business, and the people surrounding me in the HR, field, we're not from the equities side. And so I had the advantage of knowing the actual business, being an HR person. And so that really helped me and, sort of gave me the opportunity to have something that I can provide, right? So that, I think, even though I lacked the HR experience, people would still listen to me because I have that something special, different from the other people. And I think the same thing can be said about building an international career in a second language or the third language, right? So it's really about having that specialty that you can provide in an environment where you might be a little disadvantaged in terms of the language or the experience or something like that. So yeah, so in a word, my advice and from my experience is having an international career, building an international career. I think one of the best ways is to build your own expertise. And I think that you would have a chance to go into an international environment anytime in your career, as long as you have that expertise. So that's it from me. Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you so much, Hiroko. It was great presentation. I really want to ask you a lot of questions, but we don't have a lot of time. So maybe we can talk about it in a free discussion time.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I just have one very simple question. Why you had so much passion to work for HR? What was the
Sure. Yeah. So long story, very, very short. It actually goes back to my high school or middle school days when I first moved to the US. So I mentioned I was so sad, right? I was very lonely. And so I actually submitted this essay to a newspaper in Japan, a Japanese newspaper. And I happened to win an award for that essay. And so I received feedback or letters from the readers, and I realized that there are many people like myself, like children, who were lonely and sad as myself, and they read my essay and they were like, "Oh my God, it was so encouraging," and it really meant a lot to me, and I felt, I was just like one little kid and who could make a difference in other people's lives. And so that's, that was something that, I started thinking, how can I make that into a career? And then I realized maybe it's HR.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's interesting story. Okay, thank you so much, Hiroko. It was really great speech.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that let's go to Yori.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, I can see it. You can start whenever you are.
Okay. Let me introduce myself first. This is my career, and I started working at the Benesse Corporation, which is the largest education company in Japan, in 2010, and it is very company with a very strong Japanese culture. And after that, I moved to Recruit Holdings as a IHL, and I also worked concurrently at Indeed.com, which was acquired by Recruit. So, and of course, I know the Quipper that Tuti-san worked for. So I work at Recruit twice a week, and I work at Indeed 3 times a week. And at that time, most of the people at Indeed are foreign people from foreign countries, and they don't speak Japanese. So, and English is the official language of the company. So, at that time, I wasn't very good at English. So I work at Indeed. Working at Indeed was really difficult, but this was my first experience working in English. And then I moved to the X-Services 3 years ago. I have experienced many things related to the HR, starting with recruitment. I have been involved in organization development and labor and general affairs, and which is not my specialties. But at this moment, I really enjoy working at X-Services. So let me introduce to the X-Services, because you may not have heard of us, but we are AI startup company founded in 2016. In 3 years, we've grown to the 240 employees. So it is a company that tries to solve social issues by bringing AI to various industries. We are growing rapidly in various fields such as healthcare and DX, and HR tech and fintech and robotics and cameras, a lot of variety industries. And this company is characterized by its high level of diversity, not only nationalities, but also domain experts such as pharma, nurses, and caregivers, and working as employees. And the board member is the chairman of the board is Mr. Haruta-san, who was formerly the chairman of DNA, and CEO is Mr. Ishiyama, who formerly used to be the head of the Recruit AI laboratories. And nationalities, there are a lot of people from outside of Japan, and foreign employees from more than roughly 20 countries. And approximately 70% of the employees are foreign nationals, and 30% of engineers are foreign nationals. And we have like we hire members who are not able to speak like fluent Japanese. There's one thing I knew from my experience of hiring at Indeed. It is really difficult and almost impossible to hire talented engineers if you were like focus on Japanese market. And so we hire a lot of talented from overseas. So for beginning of the companies, we have like conducted our own interviews in English for candidates who could not speak Japanese. So our candidates come from like variety of countries, including the United Kingdom and US and the United Arab Emirates and India, Australia, and Sri Lanka as well. So this is a like kind of challenge for work at a diverse situation. Like some of members are coming to Japan for the first time for overseas, so they don't not speak Japanese well. So we like bring some simultaneous like interpreters for official events, such like all company meeting and translated all like official documents into English. And in this way, even though this is some topics involving technologies and like related to technologies, which is really difficult to understand, like explain in Japanese, but we try to all it to the English. And to be honest, it is not easy task, and we need a lot of members. And of course, it is easier to do it only in Japanese. But corporate members and like board members have been doing such activities with a very strong wills. So we also hold like Japanese language classes in the company every week, and I heard of that really like nice lessons, since the level of the Japanese is different from like each members, but they enjoyed like the each levels and like similar situations. And there are many other issues that come as beside our interpretations. So we set up like currently we set up diversity and inclusion teams. In fact, we are conducted a survey, like employees from different backgrounds indicated that they did not like interact well with each other because of the like diverse and inclusiveness and language barriers. So that like preventing them from like sharing the informations. So and language barriers seems to be one of the major factors, but there are other factors as well. Like we're still like new startups, so it's kind of it may be a little embarrassing to give this kind of presentation here, because they're like the Smart Ears and Mercury is already like have a lot of like empowerment to accept international peoples. But I think it is important to keep working on it, and we are like excited to create something new in the future. So like the why they join like services, because even though they're like full perfect international situations, but like one of the reasons is I asked them the question before this presentation. Japan is like an advanced country in terms of the like challenges. This graph shows that like population balance. The problem of the supervising society is on that every country will face this same problem. But like Japan is the first country need to face this problem, social issues. So there's a conference like called Nobel Prize Dialogues, which is like Nobel Prize winners gathered, and this was held in Japan. That was held in Japan 2 years ago, and CEO Ishiyama-san was invited, and the researchers looks at Japan as a like laboratory. So this is kind of like each engineers come to Japan to solve the kind of big issues for the not only Japan as of the world. So there's like engineers who say like, I like really Japanese animation, and half of Japan is great, but half of Japan is like buggy. So, but half of like so they're like they said like that they come to here to like fix the bugs. So and even though like we're a startup, we're seriously like tackling a big social problem, and it is rare to find a company that is trying to solve that kind of these problems, not only with like Japanese people, but also with the people from overseas. That's like what one of the engineers said to me. And currently, we were ranked like number one in the LinkedIn startup rankings for the second years in a row. Like in more than 10 countries around the world, but only Exovisas has been ranked number one for 2 years in a row. So I'm really kind of like proud of that. When people from overseas want to work in Japan, say they start searching, they look the access to LinkedIn and look at the startup ranking, and the more and more candidates currently applying. It's very like good thing, but for Exovisas. And like lastly, like let me share a little personal story with and I'm not like sure if I have a like global career in mind, and I don't think I'm the like right person to talk about it, but I personally think there are three like important things. Firstly, like I've been working back and forth in between Japanese company and foreign company. When I started working Indeed, I had a very hard time because I couldn't speak English at all. And now I understand how people who people who cannot speak English feel, and which is like something I can use in my experience at Exovisas. I can understand the feeling of the who are not able to speak fluent Japanese. So like kind of like, and what kind of reaction is painful for them, and what kind of reaction makes them happy. So all like these experiences are useful for as a career. So like crossing border is very important for as a career, even though like situation is hard. And secondly, like it is very enjoyable, like able to walk beyond the like beyond the borders. And this actually I gave this presentation in English for the like last time I did it in like 4 years ago, but when I received this request, I decided in a second, because this is a good challenge to improve myself. That is the like really important thing, I think. This is like guideline and a credo of the exercises, and like tackle the biggest challenge is cool. Like think after making many mistakes, it does not matter. Just don't be afraid to take on challenges. I actually no one cares about me, and I make a rule to take on a new challenge in every year. And thirdly, I think this is the most important point, and just I think it's quicker to become friends with the people from overseas, and going out for a drink together, and like introduce them to like the saunas, like which is like really currently enjoying, and talking about like anime and manga, and just like kind of as a normal friends. So then we like, even though my English is not good, they can help me. So like kind of like a project for the like mental kind of mental like spirit like closing, but like mental and the spirit is I think most important point, and open mind, and become friends with the who are not like comfortable in terms of languages. So thank you. That's the all from my side, and it's just send me the like request for me. It is really I'm happy if you for me, and mostly like in Japanese. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Yori. It was a great presentation. I agree that we should always try and take a challenge.
Yeah, talk is the biggest challenge. Is very important. Like exercises and me as well.
Right. Okay, so thank you for the presentation, Yori.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Let's go to Taka.
Okay, let me start my presentation.
Okay.
So I will explain the international career to you next. The agenda is like this. I'm Takakimoto. I'm born and raised in Japan. And actually, I never had a chance to live abroad. So, someone say so, Jundome. So, my English is not that great, but I can work using English. So I decided to have a presentation today. I majored in bioscience at Tokyo Institute of Technology. So I'm the second author of the certain thesis, but I didn't succeed in this area. So I decided to move to the business. I had engaged B2B sales at IBM Japan, and there was a big building, and I was the typical salaryman. I wear the suit at the time, and there was some celebration. Then I founded a company and failed. That's kind of unique experience, I guess. Then I joined Yonext. Firstly, I joined Yonext as the business development or something, but eventually I was involved in hiring for the company. So I have over 4 years experience in hiring field. Then I met lots of applicants, and I helped join over 100 new employees, and my area is diverse, like business, legal, engineering, experience, design. Almost all of the area I have been involved, and I also my enthusiastic about the OTT or SPOD business, so I wrote some memo on Note.com. So, but I couldn't continue to write that. But maybe I have to start over in the near future. So Yonext as an international company. Actually, the Yonext business is going pretty well, like my 10 times subscription increase over the past 5 years. But we keep the organization small as possible. So we just have 300 of my employees, but I guess we are doing a great job here in the industry. Then I think the company Yonext think globally and act locally. So we have to compete with global tech giants like Amazon and Netflix. It's very unfortunate thing, but this is for real. And we, at the same time, we co-work with global tech giants like Google, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, Huawei. That's our global side. And also, the Yonext streams the entertainment video so that we acquired content from worldwide, AMO, EMEA, APAC, from all over the world. And then eventually we hire talents from worldwide. That's our global side. But at the same time, we are acting locally because 100% of our customers are living in Japan, and over 90% of business partners speak Japanese, so that almost every employee in Yonext are able to speak Japanese. To maintain these circumstances, we try to keep a high standard working environment, such as we are doing very flexible, and we prepare for flex time or for remote or parental leave, or when we hire someone from internationally, the company support visas or support relocation financially. Then to say something's very easy, so I would disclose some numbers. The working from home, recently over 95% employees are working from home, or overtime, 17 hours per month in average. Or the international guys, the units that have 17 nationalities. And I'm very proud to say that the returning ratio from the parental leave, the 100%. And I won't say the exact number, but the compensation, I guess UNEXT compensation is the first tier amongst all Japanese companies. And I'm also happy about the company, the COVID-19 policies, that during this hard time, the company support our employees' safety. I'm very happy to see these policies. Okay. So move to the next topic. Now, actually, the UNEXT is not a international, global company. A company founded and grown in Japan, and the CEO, Tsutsumi-san, is the Japanese and have no international career at all, actually. And the headquarters is based in Tokyo. And revenue, all of the revenue comes from my Japanese market. So it's my Japanese company. But my leadership team, the company led by international professionals like my Japan, China, America, or Taiwan. It's kind of my international leadership team. And for today, I researched the past or the previous companies of UNEXT employees, and you can see the many companies here, and some are from America, some are from the European companies. So it's kind of international companies. And we also have the multicultural environment like this. So 17 countries. There are many flags here. And I would say it's not the exact number, but what kind of languages we are speaking. I assume that the most of the language is my Japanese or broken my Japanese, but 24% over 30% of spoken language is the broken English, I guess. And there are many employees who can speak Chinese, so someone speaks Chinese. So building an international career at UNEXT, there are many international people here. So to work with them, eventually you can have international experience, I would say. So lastly, the key takeaways from my entire life. So work using English. So avoid putting too much focus on language acquisition. My language itself is just a tool, so you can work in an international environment if you are a professional of a certain area. Actually, my English is not perfect, but I can work using English because I can work. I have some profession expertise at certain area. That's the reason, I guess. And the second, work with international professionals. So I try to collaborate with someone outside your comfort zone. Actually, this time, this presentation is out of my comfort zone, of course, but it's become much easier to connect those international people recently. So with LinkedIn or the Clubhouse, you can establish an international network almost instantly. So recently, I sent many messages in English to my English-speaking experts. So yeah, it's very easy to have a connection with these people. Then lastly, hang out with international people. Yeah, sometimes the casual atmosphere makes it easier to pick up something new compared to a school office environment. For example, I'm a gaming lover. I play a game a lot with friends. You can connect with people playing games online. Recently, I played Among Us with my colleagues at Unix. That was quite fun. So let's play and have fun. Then you'll get used to it, and you can have many chance to step up or something. All right, so feel free to reach out to me. I can speak Japanese, of course, so Japanese are also welcome. This is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Taku. So that actually I'm one of the 100 new employees who are hired by you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And one of the 100% of person who came back from parental leave as well.
Right, exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. I was thinking, oh, yeah, he's talking about me. Right. Yeah, that's true. That Unix is quite it's Japanese company, but inside we have lots of international members, and it's quite interesting to work with them, isn't it? Okay, thank you all for the presentation. It was really great. So that we're gonna have 5 minutes of break right now, and after we're gonna change to panel discussion. Is it okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. So that we come back in 5 minutes.
See you soon.
here comes the fun part, panel discussion time. Today, we gathered some questions from today's audience, and we are going to answer these questions as much as possible. So let's get started. The first question is, what is the difficult part of hiring talented people from overseas? For example, if the average salary of specific field are higher at the overseas companies than in Japan, how do you approach this problem? If anybody wants to talk about it.
I want to hear from Yori-san.
Sure. Actually, the issue of salary is very sensitive, and I actually hired a lot of talent from overseas when I was in Indeed, and same in services. And one thing I really think about is like the tax system is different from like each countries, right? So even though it looks like higher salaries, and after tax maybe it depends on deduction rate. So we calculate that each country's law. We search at each country's law and how much they deducted by the tax. Then if we after tax, it might be like easy to like compete. It's up to the like countries, like such as like Singapore is much more like lower tax than Japan, so it's really hard to hire from Singapore, like that kind of situation. So one thing, one like hint or the about the salaries, we need to think about not only like gross salary but after deduction salary. And of course, like it's totally different. If you are a candidate, like it's totally different from life in Japan and life in US, right? So if it's a salary is very higher in like Silicon Valleys, but their like living cost is much higher than Japan.
Yeah, it's
so
true.
After that kind of simulation, how much do you like need, or the kind of discussion is pretty important, right?
Right. Interesting. Any other like difficulty rather than salary wise to like hire talented people from overseas?
This is something not just smart news, but like from my past experiments. But I think family is also another thing that often comes up. So even the professional, the person that you are talking to, or the person that you want to hire, maybe willing to move to Japan, but his or her family may not want to. And so family care is something that 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 could be done. And I have seen many cases that like HR team kind of talks to the family, or maybe kind of look after their schooling situation or things like that. And so so family, I think, can be another thing that often comes up.
Yeah, it's true. I have a small kid, so that it's important if I need to move somewhere, I should make sure that everything is okay with the kids as well. Oh yeah, I think it could be a big problem.
Yeah. I was going to mention a few things, but definitely in the same area that Hiroko-san mentioned, some benefits or relocation support that you can offer sometimes this can be attractive for people coming from abroad. And especially when you talk among international members, and I have so many friends that moved to Japan, the main attractive is the lifestyle in Japan. So if you can sell the lifestyle in Japan, like convenience and the quality of life, and even like some parts of the culture, that can be very attractive for people coming from abroad.
Yeah.
And of course, if you can offer the competitive salary, that always helps.
from my view, there are many talented people who want to live in Japan. The anime or the food or the natural environments. There are many good things in Japan. So maybe, of course, the salary is very important, but somehow these attractive things can attract the foreign people.
Interesting. Okay, so let's go to the next question. Second one, do you find a difference in the value of working style between Japanese and people from overseas? For example, if my company asked me, I would not mind working on something outside of my job description, but I heard that overseas it is considered rather rude to be asked to work outside of your specialty. How do you think about this one?
When I worked for IBM Japan, I had many opportunities to feel this kind of issue. So when I talked to the employee working in the United States or India, they always say it's not my job. It's not my job. But when I ask someone who's the man in charge of, but they say I don't know, you care. So I think it's there are these difficult differences from the cultural background, I guess.
Yeah, I would like to mention something that is related to cultural or communication difference as well. It's not necessarily work style, but for example, like I mentioned on my presentation, there are different interpretations of some qualities, and sometimes even the company value. So for example, at Mercury, we have the value go bold. But the go bold is very different depending on your culture. What is bold?
Interesting, yeah.
Right? So
yeah, it's true.
Sometimes we have this kind of misunderstanding, and someone says well, but I don't track your hours. That is going bold. And someone says well, no, going bold is full remote. So sometimes there's this misunderstanding. So it's sometimes funny, sometimes difficult. Yeah.
I also think that this question I thought was very interesting because it's not, I think it goes beyond job. I think it's about career, philosophy, and it's maybe one thing that might be a difference between Japanese, traditional Japanese companies and non-Japanese companies might be that the employees, whether the employees have responsibility or ownership about their career development. And what you do in your job directly impacts your career development, right? So
right.
So this may not be true for everyone, but maybe some people might feel, well, you asked me to do something, but how does it relate to my career, right? What is your intention? And maybe sometimes people may ask other people to do just because they need some help, sort of kind of forgetting that they're here to do their job and kind of develop their career as well. So, when I saw this question, I was like, how would I respond? And if my company or my manager asked me to, I don't know, do coding, then I would be like, what? That doesn't make sense, right? You should just hire a very junior chief programmer who could code much better than me, right? But if my company asked me to do, I don't know, help accounting, then maybe that's very different from HR, but maybe that would help me broaden my perspective and, maybe see the company from like a more holistic view, which could help me as a senior HR professional. So I think it's about how you bring it and why you ask the person to do it, not for the sake of yourself, right? Like for the person's career as well.
That's a good point.
It's very like I meant to say the similar thing. I believe that everyone needs services and everyone is thinking about goals of the company, but like it's my personal opinion, but I feel like the foreign people first have to think about what they want to achieve as an individual, and then how they want to work, and then how that will help in the company and society. But like just kind of impressions. And but like the custom is not acceptable, like as Tuti-san says, like interpretation is different from the like Japanese people and different people. Like I think the Japanese companies have the lots of like unspoken rules.
Read between the lines.
And the custom. So I think this is like relatively unacceptable for the people from from outside of Japan. Like especially for the startups, don't have like everything in order. So sometimes like if there is a law in the system, they will like abide it. But if there is not, I get like impression that things like if you have a company employee, you should do this, will not work on. So this is kind of impressions. So like we cannot like order or ask same things to the Japanese and overseas. Might be like different type of explanations. Sometimes we need.
Right. like a small the custom difference between Japanese and the other non-Japanese people. For example, if somebody asks you to do something and the non-Japanese people, for example, say, no, I don't do that. But in Japan, we say, oh, maybe I don't have time this week. Probably I can do it next week. So can you tell me a bit more clearly? This kind of thing, like very small misunderstanding can cause big problem in the future, right?
Yes, I think it's very common.
Yeah.
I think it's a specific situation in Japan. If it's in the UK, maybe they're different between like India people and like European people and US people. So it's not like problem about only in Japan, I guess.
Right.
There's a very good book about this. It's called The Culture Map. Yeah, it talks about this different work cultures across countries. It's really good. I really recommend.
Okay, it's interesting. Okay, thank you. So let's go to the next question. This one interesting. With the spread of coronavirus, remote work has been increasing. Do you take it as an opportunity to hire more people from overseas? Do you think that remote working from overseas is practical? Or you believe working physically together is essential to have better collaboration? Who'd like to talk?
This is not like official message from like services, but please forgive us. My just feeling. It totally depends on the phase of the project and depends on the services. Sometimes I think it's better to work on like physically when you are launching a service in a very initial phase, because like even conversation is very important on that phase. I think there's certain like kind of momentum and like nuance that can be like conveyed, like help the communication. But on the other hand, like if the team has already excellent and they understand each other and has excellent skills and it's accustomed to working remotely, I think that will be fine. So it depends on the phase of the business and the maybe project. So, and of course, like situation and the circumstances change very rapidly. It up to the COVID, so we need kind of like change the rules or like kind of agile and monitoring the situation. Then like change the rule fast.
Yeah.
From,
Go ahead, Judy.
No, from my side, of course, I'm not on the logistical side of like taxes or salaries or legal terms of working abroad. So I've heard it's very complicated if you want to hire remote works from outside the country because of tax complications and legal terms. So I'm not quite sure about the complications there, but I heard it's complicated. But of course, like right now, Mercury is working full remote in Japan because of coronavirus. But we are using this opportunity to experiment with different flexible work style policies, like working hours or where do you work. And we're still analyzing what is best for the future. In my personal opinion, I personally believe in like hybrid style, where you have an office, maybe one or multiple, depending on your company. And a team or individual can choose if they want to go to the office or work from home, because each person has a different situation. And I think especially for the welcoming diversity, I think it's really important to embrace different work styles. And some people may prefer to go to the office like once a week or twice a week, or maybe an entire team wants to meet in the office. But some people may be okay fully remote. So I believe in trusting the people to choose their work style that works best for them to be productive and happy.
Yeah, I agree with Turi and Yori-san said, and I think with this situation, we do have a higher chance of hiring people from overseas. And in my opinion, in my personal experience, working remotely can, I guess, does not have as much impact as people might fear it would, because looking back my career, I have had managers, like my direct managers and colleagues, sitting in other offices and never met in person, and I was totally fine. I think, and if you look at the US, there are offices in New York and offices in San Francisco. They are just such far away from each other, and even before COVID-19, they were working like that. So I don't think this situation, I think more people are realizing this because of COVID-19, but I think it's not really unique to now. But that said, I think there's a limit to the collaboration or the creativity or this, I guess, the chemical kind of this excitement that working together can bring if you work remotely. And I say this because I always found it very interesting that I have been, so let's say I have been working with a manager or colleague in New York or in Singapore or Hong Kong, and I felt things were just fine. But the moment I met the person in person, it just feels so different, and you feel like, how could I have been working with this person before? And it just makes everything so much easier just because you met the person in person once, right? So I think that there's a magic there. I don't know what it is. I think it's very psychological. And so I think meeting online is better than talking on the phone, of course, and meeting in person is better than meeting online. And so in terms, can we work remotely? My answer would be yes, but would it be better to work physically together? And I would say yes to that too. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, we cannot explain. We cannot explain what is this. It's just magic that we feel in person, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. So when I was, was much more junior, so my previous companies had like 1,000 people in Tokyo. We work in the same building, but on different floors. So, and there's a security card that you need to go meet the person. So when, I used to work with people just over the phone all the time, even though we are in the same office and I've never met that person, right? But my manager used to tell me, if you have an issue to talk about, put your phone down and go meet the person, because that's just so much easier. So I think it's not just COVID-19 or, this, working from home thing. It's just meeting the person makes the conversation just much easier, I think. Yeah.
Let me give you another perspective. Actually, I don't want to say it's an opportunity, but naturally, the Yonext, how to say this? I hire someone based in Canada, but he wanted to move to Japan and work together, but the borderline is closed, so it doesn't happen. But the time zone issue is of course the issue, but we share the 4 working hours together, Japan and the west side of Canada. So he started working with us from this week, and I guess it works. So the thing is, we didn't want to do so, but somehow it works. Joining the company remotely and work remotely, and never met each other in person, but we can work together. This is happening right now. So I don't know, good or bad, but it happens.
We can have a great beer when we meet in person. Right? Okay. That was interesting. Let's go to the next. Okay. By the way, it's already the time to finish. You guys have a bit more time, or you would like to finish?
I'm fine.
I'm okay.
Okay, thank you. So let's go to the next one. So the fourth one, are there any companies with high proportion of overseas staff members that you refer to for organizational development or hiring? Please tell us the reason for your reference, if any. Do you have any reference from other companies?
Yeah, I think we're always like looking at the news, like the tech companies abroad or in Japan, and following what other companies are doing as a perspective, right? So sometimes we look up to Google, for example. There's a big example of successful tech company, but of course we have to understand the context is very different.
Yeah.
So sometimes we look at other smaller tech startups or other Japanese companies, and we try to adapt and understand what works for us and what we have to do differently. So for example, I think the compensation system that Mercury came up with is very unique, and it's a very unique mix of traditional Japanese system with some global influence from global tech company. So sometimes we come up with our own unique thing, but it's inspired by other tech companies for sure.
It's mostly from overseas or from Japan?
At this point, mostly overseas, but it was not like that until now. Like we were still getting a lot of inspiration from successful Japanese companies as well, or like growing startups. But now at this point, we are looking mostly for like global standards. But it's still
From my perspective, I love reading the news, or I love reading books. So I refer to some companies like Netflix, but as Tuti said, the context is the most important thing. So if the company goes well and the policy or system or the rules are working greatly, but we have to think about does it work for our company as well? So I would say we refer to for the organization, but it's not like it's not that simple. That's my view.
Right. Okay. So let's go to the last question. Oh, this one is very global. How do you study business English? Do you study English?
Not really. Just have a drink with people who come from outside of Japan.
My question will be, what is business English actually? Because for working, do we need like business English? How do you think?
So just to give some context, of course, English is not the main language in Brazil. My mother language is Portuguese, and I had to learn English as well growing up. And I think I learned English out of curiosity on what's going on in the world, So long time ago, when I started using the internet for the first time, and we used to search things on the search engine that was not Google at that time, it was a long time ago. And if I search in Portuguese, there's maybe like at that time 10 results. If I searched in English, there was 500 results. So I was like, whoa, if I search in English, I can find so much more. And it was natural for me to transition more and more to English to get more information available internationally. And as I read more and more English, I assimilate more vocabulary. And then eventually I have to practice speaking as well. So honestly, my speaking only got good after I moved out of Brazil. And I start using English every day. But then participating in conversation with international members or English speakers, and listen to the way they speak, and I start incorporating some of the way they speak into my way of speaking.
Right.
That was how I got there. And the business English, I think it just changes the vocabulary or the context that you learn. Instead of like TV show like Friends is like a business book or a business seminar. So you assimilate to different context and vocabulary.
Okay. Okay, sorry.
No. So I was just gonna say, so when I look back, I think there are 3 things that I tried. So there's business English and then just regular English. And the first 2 are common to business or non-business English, and they were just memorizing vocabulary. So like vocab, like I think knowing the vocabularies is very, very important. And I find it really interesting when I see like kind of commercials saying, oh, you just listen to English all the time and you can start to speak. And I'm like, how can you understand something if you don't know the vocabulary? So I don't know, maybe there's a magic there, but to me, just knowing the vocabulary was like a first step. So just memorizing, and if you come across a word that you don't know, then you just look up. I still look up maybe 20 words every day in English. Right? So I do that, and it just like accumulates. And I also try to read newspaper or business, writing things to just kind of learn new words. So that's one way to increase the number of vocabularies that I know. And second thing is, so knowing the vocabularies and knowing how they sound, I think are two completely different things. So when I watch TV, this is, I still do this, and I used to do this as a kid at learning English, is I watch TV with the subtitles on or the captions on, because so I get surprised to see a word that I know, but what I heard is completely different. I had no idea that, oh, that word sounded like this. So knowing how these words sound is another thing that I try to learn, and I did that just watching movies or Netflix, and that really helped me. And then third thing is specific to business English, and I think this relates to what Tudi was saying earlier. I think business English is knowing like how to say things like differently, knowing the phrases. It's not really the grammar or the vocabularies, but it's more the nuances or the right way to say things, like maybe the right level of politeness, or maybe the right way of being casual, or the right way or the right level to, I guess, to be pushy. Like if you have to negotiate, right? If you have to ask someone to do something, how pushy should you be? And there are many ways to say it, right? So I think in Japan, or maybe Japanese people, including myself, tend to think that English is direct. So it's okay to be direct. But in reality, in business, people are not that direct in English. You don't say, can you do this, right? You say, do you mind if I ask to do this, right? So it's not direct. So I think it's really about knowing the right way to say it, or the right nuances, how to say things. That's how I see business English.
Right, interesting.
I want to talk to the people who are not good at English and how to survive, because I think it will be most useful for those who are more low-level people. Like when it comes to the business English, there are skills other than English that can help you to get through with effort. Reading the context is very important, I guess. If it's a meeting or negotiation, you can get by with in advance and preparations. When someone says this, reply like this. When someone says this, reply like this. I simulated beforehand, and this is how I survive in English company. And especially for the presentation, almost I guess 80% of presentation is decided by the preparation, and it may not be very convincing because I misunderstood the date today and rushed to prepare. And even now, in this kind of meeting, online meeting, I always set up DeepL is standing by next to me, and sometimes I type it what I want to say in English. I type it in Japanese, then I rephrase it, the DeepL rephrase it. So that kind of survival English. So this is not only language issues, kind of how to survive is very important.
Right.
Yes, I completely agree with that in a sense that it's not only language, there's the cultural issue as well. And in that sense, I really recommend that book, The Culture Map. So you learn like different cultures, how they communicate or understand things differently is a lot more than just language.
Right.
And the other point that Yori, you mentioned that I really like is the like survival English. It doesn't need to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like I think, and from my observation, I think usually the Japanese learner thinks they have to be perfect, otherwise they cannot speak English. But it really don't have to be perfect. Just survival is okay.
Yeah.
I worked with members at Mercury that cannot speak English almost at all, and still we can communicate, like using the Google Translate or using the gesture, very simple English, broken sentences. That's totally fine.
Right.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons why we're having this conversation right now in English. Surviving, communicating with a limited vocabulary. Ataka, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I do agree with all of you. Yeah, my English is just surviving English. So at some point I gave up to be a perfect English speaker. So I can say something, but I try to be polite, but sometimes I cannot say something right way, but I have a character that I'm not a perfect English speaker, so everyone allowed me to do so. So I'm taking care of it, but some nuances. If I say something in the politely gestured, if the words are rude, but they allow me to do so. So yeah, surviving English is very important for those who want to speak English or who want to work in the international environment, I guess.
And do not scared to make mistakes, or this is very important as well. Surviving, don't be afraid.
Below survival Japanese. Can't survive.
But you are surviving. This is important.
Surviving in Japan.
Right. Okay, thank you so much. The questions, that's it. So we are supposed to finish at 9:30, but it's already 9:50. We are planning to do the free discussion. If you would like to do that, we can do it for 10 minutes, or if you want to leave, you can leave now. So what do you think?
Yeah, for me, it's okay. It's okay to continue.
I'm okay too.
Okay, so how do you think, Yori and Tsuti? If you're tired, you can just leave now.
No, I'm happy about it, but it's up to all.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine too. I have my drink. I'm happy.
I need a drink too.
You can go to grab one if you want to now.
I actually have tea here, but it's not enough.
I'm having Coke now. Yeah, a bit of alcohol would be nice. Okay, so let's do the 10-minute discussion. We can talk whatever we want to talk. We want to have a question to others.
Can I ask something, Yori-san, about LinkedIn? Yeah,
sorry?
About LinkedIn. Extra Wizards won the best company 2 years in a row. So, but how did you get it? Or because of the award, do you have any good things?
Yeah. The effect of the it was because 2 years ago, nobody knows about the services, just a startup and difficult to name. That's all. So, but after got a prize from the LinkedIn, hey, we are services, and I got a prize, and actually that rank decided by some 4 factors. First is the how grows the number of employees, and second is what like impression of the like company page and like job, maybe I don't know about it, but a job like recruiting pages, and thirdly maybe how like recruit, how much profile built by the people. And fourth one is very important. There is a like top companies like McKinsey, Google, and some like other top famous companies. LinkedIn rank that kind of companies. Then how much that kind of people move to the startups, they like calculate that kind of how much people are from good company to the startups. So because of that, we can say that we grow up like in terms of the quality and the quantity of people, so that like our client believe that X Services is a nice company, not only like a difficult name, but their quality of the people and engineers good, because they are extra Google, extra Amazon, extra Facebook, that kind of things. So that affect us a lot because we are like startup and like especially more B2B company. So that was really important. So it helps us a lot in terms not only recruiting but also for the like top line.
Oh, sounds amazing. So you can hire many engineers via LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
That sounds awesome. It's
but
just
it was not on purpose because of that. Like for first years, kind of surprising when I like woke up a day, they just let me know like, hey, you are the first prize. Hey, please let me know beforehand because I cannot like do the no like promotions. But like second year, we try to try to get the prize on purpose, and we did a lot. Like use our LinkedIn a lot.
Thank you for information.
you are trying to be a number one in LinkedIn.
So I have a question for I guess Yori-san and Taka-san for so as a TOD member, talent and organizational development person, I'm very curious what we can do for our employees to improve their English, and I'm just curious how you learned English in your career. I mean, we talked about how do you study English, but I wonder like specifically what do you think are something that maybe companies do for their people to help?
Can I just ask a question about let me like check my understanding. So your question is the company our company help the employee to learn English or that kind of things?
Yeah, so I wonder if a company can do anything for its employees to help improve English, or is it something that they should just learn on themselves? And I wonder how you learned English, because you must have learned it somewhere, right? Like, because
right.
you sound pretty business fluent. So I'm just curious how you got there.
Okay. I think I learned English because of the environment, because I cannot survive when I was in need. Because if I don't speak English, I cannot work. So that kind of environment, I need to study English. But maybe exercise is not, we can communicate in Japanese. So some people say that they want to study in English, but like situation is slightly different because of the no pressures. So like, in terms of language, maybe they focus on like specific time and like spend time. So I guess like if someone want to like be able to speak in English, maybe the environment is the most important thing, I guess.
Yeah. Put yourself in English speaking environment. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, for me, actually 4 years ago, I cannot speak English at all, almost at all. But the CTO Ruton joined the company at the moment, and we started hiring talented engineers, and we realized that many of the talented engineers cannot speak Japanese at all. As Yori-san mentioned in the presentation. So Ruton and another engineers can speak English fluently. So I joined the interview, but I have to say something. So at first time, I just say hello or welcome or nice to meet you. Then see you later, or I will send you some information via email or something. But gradually I learned, I started to try, and my English was poor, but everyone have respect each other, so that I get used to it, using English for my communication. That was very big to me. And most of the Japanese have been learned English in the school, the junior high, high school, or the college, university. They study a lot, so they can speak English. So just the experience, the interview situation helped me a lot to speak English. And the company situation, we tried to prepare some English, face-to-face course. I mean, someone can join the class and run the peer-to-peer, the in-person lesson. But the COVID-19 situations, it turns difficult to continue. So recently we do nothing, but the technology, Google Translate, DeepL helps us a lot, and we are doing Slack for work. So almost everyone text, and most everyone communicate to each other by the text. So it's been way easier to communicate each other using the technology, like translation things. So that's our case.
I see. Thank you. So I guess it's important to just have courage and try to use English.
I think so.
I think that could be a hurdle for some people.
And I guess like we need some kind of survival situation to learn seriously English. Otherwise, it's kind of hard for Japanese people to start like motivating yourself.
Yeah,
well.
Like one example of my members, he's actually originally from Japanese, and he didn't have any experience working in English situation. And my style is like pushing off him a cliff, like, hey, just do it. I've done it. That's all.
Right.
No help, but you can do that. I believe you. Okay. Then like he improved English very a lot. I didn't see it, but like maybe he studied a lot. So maybe the kind of style, maybe it depends on the personality and it depends on the like mindset.
Right.
But some people can speak if in a very like tough situation. Start like.
I was gonna say, at Mercury we have the language lessons, but honestly, if the person don't want to learn, they will not learn.
Yeah.
Even if
It's
you
true.
offer the lesson and offer like any support, if they do not want to learn, they will not learn. So I agree. The best strategy is a survival. I think I am actually the only non-Japanese speaker on the whole HR. There are other foreigners, but they are bilingual. So I'm the only one who cannot speak Japanese on the HR division. And ever since I joined, everyone has to speak English. So if you put one person that don't speak Japanese, then everyone has the pressure.
That's true.
I feel like a burden, but it's okay.
No, you're good. You're doing good for your company.
Just
You're
existing.
pushing a lot.
That's a good point.
Sometimes
Interesting.
like there are some people who are like psychologically dislike that kind of tough situation.
Yeah.
So we don't hire that kind of people. That's good. So I ask interviews. I ask that kind of things. You don't need to speak like perfect and fluent English, but you need to try to communicate. And even though your English is not perfect, you need to have a will and you need to show like attitude to communicate like imperfect English. Are you are you happy about this? Then we don't check the English levels, but we always ask that kind of like attitude and mindset.
Very good question.
Yeah, that's true. And also, so because like even though I'm not native, I'm not uncomfortable in English, like English speaking environment. So sometimes I actually try to do, or I actually forget to do, is imagine myself putting in like, I don't know, like a French speaking environment, and I have to remember that that's the situation that some of the Japanese people are put in, and because I tend to forget, just speak English, just everyone's nice, and I say that, but then what if I were told to speak French, and I would be so uncomfortable. So I think it's also the people who are comfortable, just knowing how uncomfortable it could be for the people who don't, or who may not speak so fluent English. So it's kind of like both sides.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Like whenever I join a meeting that they're speaking in Japanese, and then I join and they have to switch to English, I always apologize. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I know you have to switch just because of me. So if you need to speak in Japanese between you, it's fine. And I will try to catch something. So yeah, it needs the empathy from English speakers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, empathy.
It's kind of nice of Japanese culture that if there is English speaker, we try to adapt to English environment somehow. We don't like, oh no, you don't speak Japanese, I don't want to talk with you. We always try anyway.
Yeah, it's very welcoming.
But Tucci, you are the chairman of the Woman Who Code.
The director. Yeah.
Director. Does the foundation, does the organization have a Japanese member?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Actually,
Mhm.
yeah. The Women Who Code Tokyo, so it's a chapter of the global organization. So the Women Who Code Tokyo was started maybe 7 years ago, and mainly by Japanese women.
Oh, really?
So I joined in 2018, maybe almost 3 years ago. I joined, and when I joined, they switched to English.
Okay.
But actually, many members are Japanese, and of course, I still try to encourage, please organize the event in Japanese as well, and I will organize the event in English. So we try to have both.
I see.
So we can find this meeting in Meetup. Where we can find
Meetup.com. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we also have a page on Compass, but we don't use that much. We use more Meetup.
Okay.
Maybe Hiroko Botas-san will join next time.
Yeah. I do code myself. So
Nice.
do you know Jan from
Code Chrysalis.
called Chrysalis?
Yeah.
And I sometimes join the meetup that she organized for women who code.
Nice.
So that I was wondering if it's the same or it's not the same.
Sometimes we do collab event,
Okay.
but we have different events too. So yes, please join. And we have a Slack group for women who code.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I can create be some VBA. I don't know if that counts as coding.
Yes.
VBA is a programming language, right?
Yeah, it is.
Let's join.
But
It is. Yeah, I can send that invitation to the group.
oh, great, awesome.
Great, thank you.
Great. This is a really good opportunity. It's nice just to connect and discuss this kind of thing.
Yeah, and one thing that I really like about the Women Who Code is because the organization is global, but it has the chapter in many different countries. When you join the Slack group, the Slack group is a global, so you can network with people from all over the world.
Wow.
But of course, we have a channel for Tokyo, so then we can speak with people in Tokyo. But yeah, it's very nice community.
How many people are in that chapter in Japan?
In Japan, on the Meetup page, we have a little over 2,000 members.
Oh wow,
Wow.
How big?
that's a lot.
Wow.
But I think leaders, like volunteer leaders, we have 8 right now. And active members depends on the event. So if it's a more like lightning talk event, is very popular. So we can get like 100 participants or something. If it's more like hands-on study group, then the less members join.
Yeah. Interesting.
And only women can join the team, right?
Where's the diversity?
The leadership team is only women, but participants on the events is open to anyone.
Oh, really?
We just have
okay.
we just have the code of conduct. So of course the no like inappropriate behavior we don't tolerate, but anyone is welcome to join.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can join
We
the
can all
events.
join.
But usually the organizers and speakers are all women.
Okay, I think it's getting late.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Tea time. Good time.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us today. It was really great to talk to all of you. Did you enjoy the meeting?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, very much.
I hope that we can do that in person next time, for example, and we can have drink after the event. That would be
After
really
party.
nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be great.
This is I always think about.
Yes.
Thank you so much for organizing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay,
great.
so
Boza-san, do you say something the typical terms? I mean, いつものやつ. Do you say something HMWW or?
Oh, okay. So this event is brought to you by Yonext. Check us out at yonext.co.jp. If you have any question or comment about today, please tweet it with the hashtag HMWW. Thank you for watching the event today. I hope you enjoy it and hope see you next time. Bye.
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 Thank you.